Are you tired of the endless stream of fantasy marketing and vanity metrics? Yeah, so am I. My name is James Patrick, and I'm an internationally published photographer, media specialist, and marketing strategist. I'm also a student of professional development, and like you, I've been left frustrated by all of this influencer-driven generic advice, making us think that we are just one course, conference, or manifestation away from the life of our dreams. We need to cut through this crap and move beyond the posturing, beyond the facade, beyond the image, to take real action on the real work that will create the real results. This is the Beyond the Image podcast. What is going on? And thank you so much for tuning into this or latest episode of the Beyond the Image podcast. Truly honored that you could take some time to get a little information, perhaps a little inspiration to help you in your entrepreneurial journey. I've said on this show a lot the importance of attention, and what I've described attention as is the most important asset that our audience could impart upon us, because without attention there is no hope to ever engage our audience, to ever take a next step with us. So we need to figure out ways that we're cultivating attention of our audience, that we are honoring the attention of our audience, and that we are properly guiding this attention into whatever direction that we feel is appropriate for our brands and our services. So my guest today is no stranger when it comes to building attention and leveraging attention. It is Hilary Billings. Hilary, how you doing today?
I'm awesome. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm glad you can jump on. I was reading through your bio. You were a former Miss Nevada.
I was, yes.
I actually just this past weekend was judging the Miss Arizona pageant.
Yes.
So it is fresh on my mind of all things related to there's the private interview, and then you had the stage performance, the on-stage interview, then there was the talent. What was your talent?
So I did United States. So I was not in America. America is the only system that does talent.
Okay.
Though at the time, the joke was I was working with lions. And so if I did need to do it with talent, I could bring a lion cub on stage and we'd do some fun tricks.
You were working with lions.
Yes, I was.
Yes. Okay. This is why you won.
There you go.
Even if it wasn't on stage, it's like anyone that had that tenacity to do that. When did this idea of really honing in on focusing on the currency of attention really pop into your mind and reveal itself to you?
Yeah, it's, my career has been numerous iterations. I always call myself a cat with 9 lives. I originally, my background was, I got my degree in psychology. I've always been fascinated by the human condition and why we do what we do. And then I ended up in journalism as an international travel blogger, and then working for a number of years for USA Today, producing for E-News, and really learning about writing hooks and headlines and how to keep attention in those traditional formats. And then it was around 2019, 2020, I was approached by an acquaintance of mine about making content for Facebook Watch channels. He was the publisher for the largest network of Facebook Watch creators in the world. Collectively, his creators were doing about 50 billion views a year. And so we knew many of the creators and influencers, we being my co-founder and my partner. And we're like, yeah, he had a background in professional music and was a Billboard charting artist. I was a journalist and an on-camera host. We clearly understood how to make great content. Let's just leverage that and move into short form video. That should be relatively easy. We'll monetize off of the ad revenue. We'll make really funny videos. All will be well. So we started to post content, and it was crickets. Nothing that we did worked. And it was so frustrating because we knew so many incredible creators who were making, not only getting lots of views and creating these massive followings, but making great money. And even when we were trying to replicate and copy what they were doing, it didn't work for us. And so it left this taste of, do people not like me? Do they not like what I have to say? Is it because of the way that I'm doing it that's the problem? So we spent 9 months essentially just like banging our heads against a wall, trying to figure this out. And we reached this moment, right about in the middle of COVID, of we either have to let this go or we have to double down and really figure this out. And maybe what if, instead of trying to take it personally, we thought about this differently? Maybe everything that we thought was accidental in these videos, maybe they were intentional. What would that look like if everything in these videos were intentional? So We spent a weekend and we watched thousands of viral videos because that was the type of content at the time we were pursuing. And we created an Excel sheet to map out anything and everything that could be a factor, from what's happening at second one, what's happening at second three, what's happening at second five, what are they wearing, what are the mannerisms, how close is the camera, what are the camera angles, are there cuts, are there edits, is there music, are there captions and titles, and what colors are they, and what colors are people wearing. All of these things that we thought maybe somebody thought about, maybe they didn't. And it was almost like John Nash in A Beautiful Mind, where like the patterns started to emerge from the wall, as it were. And we applied those learnings and what we saw to be consistent across these videos to our next video. And that next video did 5 million views.
Wow.
And the video after that did 10 million views. And it's not to say that every video that we touched since then had incredible success. But what we learned in that process was that if we intentionally set up a video in a specific way, we can give it its best shot of being successful. And we definitely know what won't work and what won't allow a video to be successful. And it turns out that this really applies across content. And one of the beautiful things that we're seeing with our company and Attentioneers now, we made the decision about a year and a half ago to move away from being full-time content creators to helping personal brands and entrepreneurs to grow their revenue and reach through short form video. There's been no better time than now to get into the short form content game, and so many incredible mission driven messengers that are struggling with the same thing that we did, right? They don't know how to get in front of their audience. They think that it's them. They think that they're the problem because they see other people having success and they don't know why it's not working for them. And they know that there's an opportunity here. So we try to bridge that gap and help them be able to share their message authentically, no dancing required or doing anything that doesn't feel authentic to them in the process.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because you're right. If we're trying to create something that is drawing in attention, it makes sense that one of the first things we're going to do is try to emulate what we're seeing that works in the marketplace. And many of us, like you experience, we're not getting results, and we think, well, it must be me, or it must be the algorithm, or whatever reasoning we're determining. We just assess, well, it must not be in the cards for me, so I guess I just can't do this, and it's too stacked against me. I got into the game too late. There's a myriad of different reasons
Totally.
of why people would slow down. And I want to dive into some of the things you learned that work, versus as well as some of the things that were not working.
Mm.
But let's set some definitions. I think I have an idea of what short form content means, but
Yeah.
maybe my idea isn't entirely accurate.
Yeah, it's a great question. And it's a relatively new term that I think we're going to be hearing more and more in the coming years. So short form, uh, anything 3 minutes or less, usually you see it under a minute or less. So do you think about TikTok content, Facebook Reels, Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, any of these short micro doses of vertical video content is what we're speaking to when we're talking about short form video. So anything that's longer than 3 minutes, when we're getting into more of a YouTube or anything that's in a horizontal style, that would not be considered short form video.
Mhm. And why is it that in the last, was it 4 years, that short form has gained so much momentum when it comes to what we as consumers are investing our time and energy into?
Yeah, another great question, because I think one of the things that we hear all the time is like, well, I'm already doing my newsletter. I'm already focusing on my funnels. I've already got LinkedIn and I've got carousels and photo posts and highlights and stories, and I don't have the time to and I'm doing a podcast, or I've got this long form content. I couldn't possibly put any time to do anything else. And here's the staggering statistic is that Adobe released a study earlier this year. So we're still in 2023, saying that 80% of the time that we are on our cell phones and we are not texting or calling somebody, we're watching short form video. So when we think about 80% of the time where our audience is, how they're connecting to their friends, their family, to brands, to entrepreneurs, anything that they're learning something new, if that's the format in which they're consuming, it's our belief that if you're feeling overwhelmed or other things are not getting you the results that you want. Let's put all that to the side and go all in on where your customer is, right? We want to meet your customer where they're at. And a lot of that comes, and even with the psychology of attention, that comes to understanding the experience that your consumer, your target audience is having at the time that they meet you. And so if you're removing an 80% likelihood of them being able to have a touch point with you, like that's going to dramatically impact, your conversions and that brand affinity and where you can build that connection long term. So that's the first thing, is that yes, the way in which short form has taken over how we're consuming content has been astronomical. And I think a lot of that came down to the perfect storm. Before TikTok was TikTok, it was Musical.ly. And when they rebranded as TikTok, it was the perfect storm of COVID and this new platform that was exciting and people getting on it and having time to create, having a lot of time to consume. This was also a time where we saw a lot of influencers and creators just skyrocket. I was one of those. I went from 0 to 400,000 followers in 40 days on TikTok. There was kind of this golden age of being able to attract a lot of followers within that specific time. And then it was an arms race for every other platform to try to gain back the momentum that TikTok had taken over, right? And to gain back those followers. And so creating different ways of, whether that's through Facebook Reels or Instagram Reels or YouTube Shorts. I think Twitter's even talked about doing some sort of short form video piece as well. There's been numerous other apps that are still like on the up and rise and trying to work in video as well to that pace. But I think our cameras the way that we utilize our cell phones has dramatically shifted in the past 10 years. When I graduated from college, TikTok didn't exist. Instagram in its current was just barely new. And the way that we used it wasn't nearly what we were doing with it back then. So we always see this iteration of the youngest generation is the first one to hop on the trend and try out the new platform. And then slowly everybody else comes in and takes it to be more for businesses or more for personal brands or to leverage it in a different way than we've usually seen it. So there was just a perfect storm of that. And then I believe there was also something really interesting going on with Instagram, which I don't remember the full story about, as to why they weren't the first ones on the train, that just allowed for this blossoming to happen. And now it's really interesting when you look at user statistics, regardless of your thoughts on TikTok. And I'm on TikTok's advisory board, so we obviously have a great connection and relationship with them, but we also have deep ties with YouTube and Facebook, and we got our start on Facebook as well. So we understand all the different platforms, but the user experience and the way that people interact with content on TikTok is really fascinating. They've got over 1 billion organic users. 160 million of those are in the US. 51% of users are over the age of 30. So even though it's usually associated with being a Gen Z platform, more and more people of different age brackets are getting on the platform. The average user is spending a movie's length worth of time on TikTok every single day, and they're not doing it all in one go. They're opening the app somewhere between 8 to 16 times a day. So they're on the app in 5 to 10 to 15-minute increments, and they're getting these short bursts, and then they're moving on. So the way that we're consuming content is dramatically changing. And regardless of which platforms stay in the game, it's our belief that short form is going to continue to propagate and be the primary means of communication and connection for at least the next 5 years.
Mhm. I think as content creators, what we fail to do is pay attention to how we consume content. If
Mm,
we are consuming content that is shorter in form, or we're drawn to certain platforms, but that is not what we're creating, and we're just trying to give audiences just what we want to give them. Why like writing blogs? So I'm just going to write blogs, and people just need to adapt to me. Well,
yep.
good luck. It's just, it's not going to happen. And it's interesting because I did notice that it was kind of around the 2020 timeframe where Instagram really leaned into, if I remember correctly, they were really leaning heavy into lives
Mm,
and creating lives, and everyone was going live during that time. And that's when Clubhouse kind of jumped on the
yep.
scene, and that became really popular. But who's on Clubhouse today? I
Yeah.
who has time to sit in a room for 4 hours and listening to strangers talk about topics that you're not really that interested in? It's that worked. That was a sign of that time that it worked. And so, I always look at or I also look at, like, knowing where your audience is when you're trying to interact with them, because one thing that we've noticed is, like, with YouTube,
Mhm.
that views on YouTube from smart TVs have gone up a lot, which means people want long form content while they're sitting on a TV, and they're now using YouTube as if we would use Netflix or Hulu or what have you. So it's like, okay, where can I meet my audience based off what they are anticipating, and not trying to fit something into a space that it's just not fitting. Um, so you had mentioned that as you were testing things out, you found things that definitely worked and things that definitely did not work. And let's
Yeah.
start with the latter. What were things that did not work, or some mistakes that were more apt or common to make?
I think the biggest misconception is that just because it's popular, that means it's productive.
Mhm.
I Regardless of the industry you're in, and this happens a lot, especially if we're consuming within our genre, we're paying attention to, our competitors or our colleagues within the same industry, whether it's you're in health and wellness or you're a real estate agent, you see other people making certain types of content. And I believe that what happens is there's just an assumption that that's working, that that's leading to conversions. And whether that's they're not taking the time to like look at the views, look at the engagement, or they're taking a specific number like views and maybe not taking into consideration that someone might have paid for those views and just assuming that that's leading to revenue.
Mhm.
So then they go and they try to replicate that. Now, we are a big believer, like, let's not reinvent the wheel. Like, let's go and see what's working. Let's do, and we utilize a lot of back end data and deep data analysis to understand as much as we can without being able to see into everyone's business models, what does work. And then being able to replicate and pull from those other creators what makes sense for the client that we're working with and how we can align that with their brand values and voice and their uniqueness to resonate with their target audience and what they're trying to push. But I think that the first thing is, 20 million new videos get posted to social media every single day. Like, more content has been created in the past couple months than in the entirety of human history. So the saturation that exists is so high. And in a place where people, when this is not your full-time job and you have a business that you're trying to run and it's overwhelming, it's really easy to just say, I'm going to copy what so-and-so is doing, because clearly if I just haphazardly post something up, if I just put something up, that's better than nothing. And I don't believe that to be true. We believe in very intentional content. And even in my own situation, my TikTok has over 860,000 something followers on it. I haven't posted content on it in 6 months to a year. And that's been a very intentional piece. I haven't had the time to make quality intentional content, but I know that when I make the decision to jump back in and to revitalize that page health, I can do so in a matter of weeks. And we've done that with other pages within our own, whether it's on Instagram, whether it's on YouTube for clients. And it's just about being hyper intentional and making sure the content that you're making is set up to convert for what you want it to do. I think the other big mistake that happens is people put a lot of pressure on the content without taking into consideration the full ecosystem of what they've got going on. So because of the immediacy and how easy it is to get the instant gratification of seeing views and seeing likes and seeing comments and seeing shares, I think people put a lot of weight into that and don't necessarily look at it as being a piece of your long-term business plan, right? Like, short form video, even though it's short and you are getting that instantly in front of an audience, it is more of a long-term play. And you can, and we have seen clients have massive viral success and get 1.6 million views on a video right away, or that leads, and right away leading to the leads that they want or the clients that they want. And that's all fine and great. But you want to think about it as a piece of your long-term foundational puzzle, and to drive the brand affinity, to give people a chance to connect with you, to see you as the expert. And then where are you leading them? Right? What's the next step that they can take? The great thing about TikTok users in general is they are 2 to 3 times as likely, once they find a video, once they're served a video that they like, to go to a profile to learn more about that creator. They're 2 to 3 times more likely to then click on links. 75% of people have purchased something on the spot off of TikTok because they saw a video and liked it, and they made an instant decision to go ahead and make a purchase. So the power of somebody being able to make decisions and to close the loop for you can happen instantaneously. But where are you sending them? Is it some elongated link tree with 12 different options of where they can click on? Is there a singular focus that you're trying to push them to? Is that something that they want? Or are you just trying to get them to sign up for your newsletter? And newsflash, I don't know about you, but I don't want to sign up for anybody's newsletters. But I'm willing to give you my email in exchange for something that I find valuable. So, what is it that's valuable? Is it clear once I get to your website how I can work with you? Is it clear how I can get in contact with you? Is it clear what I'm going to get from working with you? So, yes, the content is so important and being intentional about that, but the reality is you have to have that intentionality and that construct with everything. And you wouldn't expect your website just to be posted up and immediately clients to come in. And what we want to do is, like, when, just like with your website or your newsletters or your funnels, we want to look at the data. Okay, where are people going on the website? Where are they bouncing out? How long are they staying on something? What's getting them to go and click and follow through the shopping cart? What's not? And it's constantly looking at it from a data perspective, and not just saying, well, this doesn't work for me. It's like, what about this isn't working for me? What about this is working for me? And constantly thinking about it as a giant experiment is really the big piece that I think a lot of people miss.
Yeah, I guess I've never understood why someone doesn't want to A, look at the data, or B, understand the
Yeah,
data. Maybe because maybe because it would point something out that they're not doing. Uh
sure.
not right versus wrong, but effectively versus ineffectively. And it's just easier just to assume. I run into the same thing, Hillary, when I'm working with clients and they've never even solicited their audience about what their audience wants from them or expects from them,
Sure.
or what they would even be interested in being served with from them. And they're just guessing, like, well, I like to do this thing, and so
Hmm.
I'll just force my audience to buy this thing. It's like, I was talking to my editor this morning, and we're talking about bad business advice we've received, and I said the worst bad business advice I've ever received was people saying follow your passions.
Mm,
Just because you're passionate about something doesn't mean the market wants your passion.
100%.
It's great when you can have a passion that the market wants.
Yeah.
That is great, and follow that. But if your passion is it's not something the market really cares about, you're going to go broke following your passion. So it's about understanding what people want from you, expect from you, um, and are conditioned to receiving from you. An example I'll give is I tried to launch a business back in 2018, and it was a an education-based business for photographers and creatives to basically learn their craft more creatively and effectively, and then grow the business that goes along with that craft. It bombed. It just did
Mm,
not do well. And after thinking about it, I realized the reason it didn't do well is no one knew me as a person to educate photographers.
mm,
I had no history publicly
yeah.
doing that. And I'm not known for that. So if
Yeah.
I'm not known for that, when I come out with this thing, I'm going, all right, I didn't know that was
Totally.
something for you. So I spent the last 5 years building content that reinforces this idea that I teach photographers and I assist creatives and I help different creative professionals expand their business. So when I go to relaunch this, it's going to do better. I already know it's going to do better because I've spent the last
100%.
5 years building the audience for it. Um, uh, but kind of like going back into, like, as you were going through and you're mapping out things that you're seeing that, okay, this is working. Okay,
Hmm.
this is what's capturing attention. Okay, this is what's hooking people in. It's much like, I mean, you knew this as a copywriter. Like,
Hmm.
headlines draw people in. What in videos? What are you learning that's working? That's capturing people's attention. That's compelling them to want to watch and engage in a video.
For sure. So with this, there are three pieces that we find every video has to have in order for it to do well. And when we say do well, I think there's also a misconception or a lack of clarity around what a successful video is. Because the truth is, as algorithms change, like what they prioritize as far as comments or shares or saves or likes, all that, views, followers, we're in a state of follower fatigue. So, like, I'm not basing the success of a video off of how many followers I'm getting, because that's not how people are coming to profiles anymore. And so again, needs to be an understanding of what the viewer's experience is and how they're interacting with it, but more so, like, what does it mean for a video to be successful for you, and what is that end result that will make it successful? Because I can tell you this too, I've gotten clients millions of views and they haven't been happy because it wasn't the right video to take off, right?
Mhm.
So it just depends on what you're really looking for. So for us, a successful video is all about having a high watch time. So how much of the video did they watch, the percentage completed, and like it, what was the actual time on that video. And of course, that's going to look different for a 10-second video versus a minute long video versus a 3-minute video. So, but I know that if I can get people, like my goal, a successful video to me is keeping people watching the video as long as I possibly can. So everything that I'm doing is setting up for that result. Because if I can do that, everything else will follow. The views will follow, the engagement will follow, the shares will follow, but I have to keep them first. So that's what I'm engineering for. So every successful video, and you might notice this on videos that you like that you put up, but they didn't do well, or videos that you don't know why that thing took off because you weren't into it. It probably did all three of these things if it took off and you didn't know why. The first one seems really self-explanatory, but we do have to capture attention, and we have to do it in under 2 seconds. People are making a decision in 2.5 seconds, whether or not they're going to scroll or they're going to keep watching a video. And so a lot of that comes from really powerful visuals, a really clear understanding as to where the video is going. If it's confusing, if the quality of the video sucks, like people will forgive you for bad video as long as the audio is okay. But if the audio and the video sucks, or I don't know what I'm looking at, I'm going to move on, right? And this is where you as a consumer, you as a viewer can really help you in this, because even if you just start looking at, why did I stop to watch this video? What made me give this video an extra 2 seconds? And by the way, those first 2.5 seconds only get you another 2.5 seconds. So we've got to consistently be grabbing that attention and making sure that they understand what's coming next. So we can do that through novelty. We can do that with questions. We can do that with numbers. We can do that with really enticing titles. There's a lot of different ways that we can set it up. We also need to make sure, so that's the first one, we got to grab attention. The second one is we have to spark an emotion. We have to somehow create a connection. And we do that through emotions. When people get emotional, they get promotional. When people get emotional, they get promotional, and they want to share the content. They want to send it to their friends. This is why channels like the Dodo are so successful, right? You see this cute little sad puppy under a tire who's skinny and shaking, and then you get to see it transform into this happy puppy full of love. Oh, so feel good. You want to share that with everybody and have them have that experience with you. It's also the reason why fake news spreads 6 times faster than truthful news, because when people are upset and they're angry and they're outraged, they don't have time to go and fact check. They just need other people to be outraged and angry too. And this is how the whole fake news movement really became a problem, is because fake news leverages and leans into emotions more than anything else. So we want to make sure we're sparking an emotion, and that emotion can simply be curiosity. It can simply be wonder. It could also be fear. It could be anger. It could be love or desire. There's a lot of different things that we can leverage, but we want to make sure going into, before we've even started filming the video, like we're thinking through all of this as to, for us, a great post-production strategy is a great pre-production strategy. And we want to make sure we've got as much as possible of this laid out before we even hit record. So we got to grab attention. We've got to spark emotion. And the last piece, which I think is the most overlooked piece, is we have to create a curiosity gap. So there has to be a question that they want answered that we're going to give them in that video. And that could be as simple as the video opens with a guy on his knee holding a ring. And so the curiosity gap is, oh my gosh, is she going to say yes? Or is he going to bomb in front of all of his friends? Is she going to say yes? Is he going to say no? What happens next, right? Sometimes that's just the question, is what happens next, especially in the viral video space. When it comes to educational content, or when it comes to informational content, it might be here's the number one thing you're not doing for your health. Or here is the biggest secret to 6-pack abs. Or here's what nobody knows about making $1 million, right? And so what you've done, it doesn't have to be complicated. It just needs to be clear, and it needs to be something that your audience wants the answer for. And if you set that up, then you want to give them the payoff, and they're going to stick around for that payoff. So those are the 3 things that every video needs to do regardless, is it needs to grab attention, it needs to spark an emotion, and it needs to create a curiosity gap. And just being armed with that and thinking about your content through that lens And even just noticing and observing your own watch behaviors, right? Anytime someone's scrolling on their phone, the first question is, what is this and do I care? Like those are the
Mhm.
questions that they're asking. And so we've got to move away. And it goes back to what you were saying earlier, James, about how this, what you like, what you think people should pay attention to doesn't matter. Like 20 million videos being posted every day. The average person's being served between 6,000 and 10,000 ads a day. We have to earn attention. Nobody owes you their attention or their time. So we do that by making sure that we can answer the questions, what is this and why do you care? And then walking them through the process of capturing attention, sparking emotion, and creating a curiosity gap. And if we're curating content for what our audience wants to see and what they care about, everything else comes from that. Now you're the expert. Now you've built the credibility. Now you've built the trust. So when you go to launch your photography course, people say, yes, hell yes, I need to get this from him. He has put in so much time and effort into making me feel valued. Of course I need to go. It's a no-brainer at that point. And so that's what we want to do, is to help businesses and entrepreneurs and personal brands to really understand that this is about you making content that makes your viewer the hero and makes them get what they want out of this, even though you along the way will also get what you want out of it by doing that.
There's so much to unpack with this. Excuse me. I
Mhm.
like that you brought up that virality doesn't always equal payoff. I've had 3 pieces of content in 20 years that I would say have gone viral, and 2 of which did nothing for me. And the
Mhm.
and it makes sense because they had nothing to do with anything. They
Mhm.
just they they sure hit these points. Well, to be clear, one of them was just like, it was a behind the scenes video of a photo shoot I was doing, and really it was the person in the photo shoot. People were googling them, and that's
Sure.
why. So that's an outlier. But the other one, it was a video of me cleaning my studio floor.
Mm.
That was it. A time lapse video of me, scrubbing and mopping my studio floor. Just kind of making fun of, what people think photography is versus what, my days are actually like, which are me on my
Yeah.
hands and knees with the magic eraser getting shoe prints off a cyc wall. It did really well from a view standpoint. It didn't get me any business. The third piece did. It was some blog article I wrote like years ago that just got long form found through SEO and still was driving lots of traffic into my website.
Mm.
But the blog tied into something that would connect to what I was ultimately selling. So it did actually help. But as you were kind of going through these 3 points, I was kind of doing a triage of videos that I consume. And my listeners know I'm obsessed with this account. But there's this vegan chef named Max Lamana, and his videos get north of 1.5 million views on the regular,
Yep.
and he follows this pattern. First scene, first 2 seconds, it's him holding a plate of food that looks amazing, and he says, I'm going to show you how to make fill in the blank,
Yep.
my vegan meatballs. And then he takes a bite out of it, and you just see him savor that bite. Now that's the emotion right
Mm.
there, is you see him enjoy this bite. And then it's this very quick form video of do this, do this, do this. And by the way, he's always in front of a north facing window. So he has gorgeous light on him. He's leaning towards the camera. He's holding up the plate of food to the camera. It's clear. It looks great. It's well lit.
Yep.
This is not high tech. He's using a
Yep.
cell phone. And then there's that curiosity gap. Oh my God, that vegan chili looks bananas amazing. I wonder how he's going to make
Yeah.
vegan chili taste good. And then there's always the payoff. And then the description is, of the caption is always the full recipe and every step along the way. So lo and behold, when he drops a cookbook, who's first in line for his cookbook? Me.
Yep.
I will take that cookbook. In fact, I got both of them and they're awesome. But this actually made me think about something. I want your opinion on this.
Yeah.
So I first found him through the explore page. He was
Mhm.
served to me.
Yep.
And the first thing I did was, after I saw one of his videos, I went to his account to find more like it.
Mhm.
And I found a lot. In
Yes.
fact, there were thousands. And then I binged it.
Yes.
And that then I'm following him because I want
Yes.
more and more content. What are your thoughts on creating bingeable content, like basically series or themes of content
I
on social media?
I'm so glad you asked this, because there's a lot. There's actually a lot to that question. And the first piece being, again, we have to think about how people are going to find us outside of your followers, right? Which, frankly, I don't really care about how many followers you have. Like that's fine and all, but we're no longer served content based upon familiarity. We're served content based upon interest. Like
Mhm.
that is how we are consuming content. So what that means is when you're on your discover page, when you're on your for you page, when you're on the explore page, insert whatever title is for whatever platform that you consume on is, you're less likely to see a video from someone you actually follow. What you are going to see are more videos like the last videos that you went searching for that you watched. So I'm an equestrian. I ride horses. I get served a ton of equestrian content. I watch a couple Taylor Swift videos. Suddenly, my feed is full of Taylor Swift videos and from all of her concerts. My co founder and my partner, he's really into golf. I'm sending him content all the time. So I get a ton of golf content. Anything that's not within something that I'm already watching, the algorithm is going to try to push my bounds and say, okay, you like golf. Maybe you're interested in a goose chasing a golfer. Like, is that something that you would find interesting? Or you like horses? Do you like mules? Do you like other farm animals? Right. So it's going to work and try to play to see what other interests you have. But again, your feed is based off of interest and what you're consuming, which is why it's super important as a creator that you are hyper specific about the content that you're making, because that will help the algorithm to find the right people to serve it to. The algorithm wants to help you. A lot of people look at the algorithm as like this negative, like ether thing that's trying to keep you down. It's not. It really just wants to understand what are you trying to create and who wants to see it. And then once somebody wants to see it, it's going to continue to push. And this is how we got 1 billion views in a year. This is how we went from no views in 9 months to 1 billion views in over a year, and having videos do 5, 10, 50 million, 100 million views. And we didn't have the followers to support it, right? Like on our Facebook page, I think we maybe had 10,000 or 50,000 followers, that they alone could not make that happen. What happened was us being able to leverage the algorithms and know that if we're able to lock in and tell the algorithm, go find more people like this, that it would help us bat way above our average. And we have clients that are able to make the same amount of views, hundreds of thousands of views that match what they're doing on other accounts with 1% of the followers on TikTok. So that's also the great thing. Being a new creator, you don't have to have a lot of followers, but you do have to make quality, consistent, and specific content that the industry or the viewership that you wants to watch. So that's the first piece, is that it's not based upon familiarity, it's based upon interest. But what you described you doing is exactly what the user experience looks like. People are going to find you on their For You page. They're going to watch the video. They may like the video, but they're going to like it not because they actually like the video, but because that helps to tell the algorithm to serve more content like that. So we also have to look at why are you making the certain moves or behaviors that you're making, because it also means that probably there's other people out there that are doing similar things. So then you going to the feed, that is the next step. You're still not going to follow him at this point, but you're now looking to see what else he's got. And you're probably going, and I don't know like what his profile page looks like. This is also a little bit different for people that have very similar content. I'm sure what's different about his is that every thumbnail is that finalized, beautiful payoff video, or that still image of what you're going to see. So that immediately allows you to pick which videos you want to see. For someone that's doing a lot of talking head stuff and they've got it's just their face, then they're going to be hyper reliant on titles. Right? What differentiates this talking head video from that talking head video? There's a woman that we reference a lot. Her name's Erica Kohlberg. She's got something like 20 million followers across platforms. She's a former lawyer. She reads the fine print, so you don't have to. That's her whole shtick. How to help you, get a free coffee at Starbucks. Here's what to say to, get some additional miles when your bag's late at Delta, right? So every one of her videos is set up the exact same way. She's found a formula that works for her, but they all look the same. So she's differentiating based upon titles. So when someone finds her video and says, this is interesting, I wonder what else she's got, now they can scroll through and find what interests them based upon those compelling titles. So the thumbnails, the visuals, and the titles become hyper important important at that point, because that's helping your viewer find more content. And then after they watch 3, 4, 5 of those, and you've delivered on the value and the quality, then people follow. Then they go and they say, okay, what else does he have? Maybe I want to buy his cookbook. Does he have a course he can help me with my photography? So we want to, this is all part of the user experience that we need to be considering as a content creator, as another funnel and way to bring people in. And so it's all super important. And I think a lot of people, they think of thumbnails, they think of titles as like afterthoughts, and it all should be very intentional, because that's how people are making a lot of their decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad you brought up the consumer experience going through this, because
Yeah.
you're right. If we're not really thinking about when people are accessing these videos or how they come across these videos, we're leaving out an important part of that journey. And I had struck this idea of bingeable content when, just on a whim, I had been doing these photo tutorial videos with mixed success. And I decided to do another one, and my makeup artist turned the camera on, and I was feeling a little cantankerous that day. And I just looked at the camera and said, I'm just going to show you how to take a photo that doesn't suck.
Love it.
And it worked.
Yeah.
And now I've done, 2 dozen of these, and that's what we just call it. And every time I turn into a bigger asshole every time I do one of these videos. I'm going to show you how to take a photo that doesn't suck. And it's
Amazing.
funny because if these ever get shared outside of my account, anyone that's on my account knows I'm being silly. Like,
Yeah.
this is satire. But when it gets shared, oh my God, the comments I get.
Oh, I bet.
Who's this guy? I love it. I love it because it's engaging these
Yeah.
conversations. Yeah, but had I not stumbled upon, because before I wasn't grabbing attention. Those
Mm.
first 2 seconds were not captivating enough. It did not promote any curiosity or intrigue into what's coming next. So I'm gonna look into the title cards, because I've just been doing, I have been doing title cards, so it's all,
Yeah.
those videos when you see them,
Yeah.
when you're scrolling through my feed. But I feel like I can take them up just another notch to enhance that journey a little bit more. This is
Totally.
I love diving into this stuff. I find this so fascinating.
I will just say one more comment on the binge-worthy content or the series. We often have clients that'll come to us that say, "Well, I'm doing this series. Like, should I label it part 1, part 2, part 3?" And my
Mm,
personal opinion is no, because again, you want to think about how someone's going to get served. They're not going to get served your content in any particular order.
mhm.
If they're going to be served, what's been working well, or if there's something that's seasonal, because you want to think about, like, that was always the strange thing that would happen, right? It's like our videos would come up, they'd have their success, and then their tail would come down. Some would have longer tails than others, but then we'd see them shoot up again, whether because that video was something that we did over Christmas time, and now it's the seasons come back around and people are searching for that type of content, or another video has done well that's in a similar style, and so the algorithm says, cool, these people like watching this video, maybe they'll like these videos, right? And it's trying to serve suggestions. So there's a lot of different ways that the content will come back around. So no one's ever going to watch anything in order, and we have to keep that in mind, because that will, you can do a part 1 and a part 2, and we've done that and we've seen success with that, and we understand how to leverage that. However, I wouldn't be reliant upon that for.
Sequential.
Correct.
Mhm.
Yeah, you want to think about that someone's going to get served something randomly. Can this stand on its own?
Yeah, that is such a good point. Um, all right, you're on advisory board, so maybe you can help me with this.
Mhm.
I'd like to stop seeing this. And
Oh,
I know
I'll
the
write
way to
down.
stop, yeah, I know the way to stop seeing it is to stop watching it, but
Yeah,
I
I was
don't
like, oh, there you go.
but I keep watching it. This is what gets me on Facebook Watch. It's
Mm,
when it's like a really salacious headline. And
mm,
it's these videos that there's no audio except for, like, just background music, but it's
okay.
these like fade in, fade out headlines about celebrities. You won't
Mm.
believe what happened to this celebrity. Fade out. Their career was on the rise until fade out. After 10 movies and X number of TV shows, fade out. And I'm now 5 minutes in the video and I have no idea what the video is about. And I'm just like,
Yeah, I need
I
to
need
know.
to know what
Yeah,
is happening. And then I look and
exactly.
there's another 10 minutes in the video. I'm like,
No.
They got me.
They
They
got
got
you.
me, Hillary.
They got you. Yep.
Where
That
can listeners
happens.
go to learn more about you and all the amazing work that you're doing?
Yeah, the best place to connect with us is attentioneers.com. That's attention, EERS. We are engineers of attention. Attentioneers.com. We would love to offer anyone that's listening a free strategy call. So if you go to attentioneers.com/free call, you can book a free strategy call with either myself or my co-founder. We'd love to hear about what you're working on, what's working for you, what's not, and how we can help you along the journey. So that's the best place to find us.
That is an amazing offer. So we're going to make sure
Thank
that
you.
is listed in the show notes. Hillary, absolutely a delight chatting with you. Thank you so much for jumping on.
Anytime. Let's do it again.